Hey, good morning and welcome to the fourth hour of the Greg Belfrage Show. It's great to have you along this morning. Steve has got big news here. Steve has got big news right out of the gate. Slayer is back on tour after a 5-year hiatus. That is all. Well, let's call that the fourth hour for today. We'll just end right there. Steve, how do you expect me, Steve, to be able to top that? I mean, come on. Great to have you along. Let's see what else is happening this morning. We had a great discussion on the air this morning about Amendment H, and I'm getting a lot of email responses also to that, which I really greatly appreciate. Folks who also want me to talk about Initiated Measure 23, which is definitely been on my radar. You've been hearing the news that the Kello news team has been doing on Amendment 23. We'll wind up talking about that. No, is it 23, 24? Forgive me. My memory is, believe me, is not what it used to be. I've got a number of stories that I wanted to share with you here this morning. This is trending this morning. Gia Riamondo, who is the U.S. Commerce Secretary, ignited social media yesterday. She made comments on Morning Joe on MSNBC, where all nutty comments begin. She said she was attacking claims made by Donald Trump, saying that whatever he says is the opposite of reality. How did we get here? Let's extinguish him for good, she said. We have an answer. We have a remarkably talented candidate who is sincere, who is pragmatic, who's open. Let's just get it done. The comment when she said, let's just extinguish him for good, is that a threat in your mind? I can see how some would take it that way. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying I would have taken it that way. I don't think I would have perceived that as a threat, but a number of people have, and that's why that story it's trending this morning. Is that a threat? And so I'm going to leave it to you to decide. Let's extinguish him for good. Was she saying extinguish him politically for good? You could make a case that's probably what she meant. Did she? But in this really kind of hypersensitive environment that we're in right now, 2 assassination attempts, I think I would guard my criticism of Trump. I mean, I think I would be very mindful of how I was phrasing things. I'm not saying you can't oppose Donald Trump. You shouldn't express your concern and so on. But when you say, let's extinguish him for good, when there have been several assassination attempts and a real big focus on what's going on with Secret Service right now, I really have got to believe you and I will wind up talking about Secret Service tomorrow because that's likely to be a big story with the Senate in particular, unveiling their report this week, actually today. And we talked about that a little bit this morning with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst getting her, reaction to all of this. But given the political climate and what's going on, using words like extinguish probably is ill-advised. But that's just my perspective. And so I'm curious to know what you think. And Steve also said, it's maybe not a threat, but certainly drawing attention to that $150,000 bounty the DOJ is looking to pay. These are just crazy times, my friend. Hang in there. All right, let's see what else I had that I wanted to share with you. there's a piece. This is over at PJ Media. And the whole thrust of this piece is that Kamala Harris, in her big economic speech, basically an endorsement of Donald Trump. So she went to Pittsburgh to give what was a major economic address and the policies that she would pursue. And I talked about this morning. Unfortunately, where the policies are scant, they are thin at best. So the reaction on social media, Kamala Harris saying, we just need to move past the failed policies that we have proven don't work. Steve Cortez, acceptance is the first step. I love this. This is why I love social media. Seth Dillon, Kamala Harris says we need to move past the failed policies that don't work. She's telling us to vote for Trump. Listen to her. And that piece goes on. Again, that is at, that's a great piece at PJ Media this morning. Let's see what else we've got out. Steve, interesting. Steve saying, Kamala's big problem is that her puppet masters haven't told her what her policies are. I thought you made a pretty good point about that in your email to me earlier this morning. I didn't have a chance to share that, unfortunately. Steve is, how long have you been listening now, Steve? Steve's been listening since I was doing the afternoon show on Kello. He's been a long time supporter and listener to the show. I just really appreciate it. One of a number of people that I've been able to, that have just become incredibly loyal listeners, very supportive, yeah. Steve says sometime in 2022 is when he began listening. Well, very much appreciated, pal. It's always good to hear from you. Let's see what else is out there this morning. I love these. I love the fourth hour, this ability to be able to interact with you guys. Another Steve says, these are just some of the Steves you know. Yeah. Nikki Haley, I found this interesting. See what Nikki Haley is saying. She's doing her own show now, apparently, called Nikki Haley Live on Sirius XM. And she said, it was the headline that caught my attention. She said, you're not going to hear me say glowing things about Donald Trump's personality. And I understand where she's coming from. But this is the point that I thought she made, and this is where I respect Nikki Haley. She says politics is not for thin-skinned people. It's just not. And I think that if you really want me to do a service for your country, you have to be able to put the personal part of it aside, she said. She said she's looking at the presidential race as a voter and with an eye toward what's best for the country. I'm looking at what I think will make the country better. So that's what you're going to hear on the show. You're just going to hear the truth. Sometimes I'll think someone does something good. I'll say it. Sometimes I think they do something bad. I'll say that too. Well, I appreciate that because it's the same kind of perspective that I have tried to have. That if I want to share my honest thoughts with you. And if sometimes, whether it's Trump or anybody else, seriously, whether it's Donald Trump or anybody else, Donald Trump does a number of things that I really like. And I've got to tell you, he does a number of things. And I've said this, especially on the fourth hour. I've articulated a lot of this. That Donald Trump says things, and I think, wish he hadn't said that. Or I look at it and I go, what? What in the bloody, hell is he thinking? I mean, what is he doing? Don't get it. I appreciate people who can be honest. There's a real lack of that, I think, especially among politicians. Have a kind of a problem being honest and consistently honest. So Denise, sorry, Kamala is supposed to be doing an interview on MSNBC. Thank you, Denise. One of the big stories this morning was the interview that Melania Trump did. And she was on, this is a story from Fox News. She was on Fox and Friends this morning. And Ainsley Earhart did an interview with Melania Trump throughout the morning. And this is a big story now at foxnews.com. Melania Trump reacts to Kamala Harris replacing Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee. And she talked about the challenges under the Biden administration. The country is suffering. People are not able to buy usual necessities for their families. We have wars going on around the world. Soldiers are dying. They were dying under this administration because of weak leadership. The border is open and dangerous. A lot of fentanyl is coming over, killing our youth. It's very hard to see, she said. Interesting. She's out with a new book. She talked about the economy. It's not really great. Inflation is high. These are the same things you and I talk about on the Greg Belfrage Show all the time. Inflation is high, and if we compare these 4 years under this administration compared to 4 years under my husband as commander-in-chief, he was leading the country through peace, through strength, and the border was safer than ever before. We didn't have any wars. People were prospering. They had jobs. They could support their families. So I think the American people need to decide what they really want. Maybe some strong tweets, but everything else great for this country. So she's saying, Donald Trump, again, it's the tweets, and people go nuts about the tweets. Even me sometimes. I go, really, Donald, did we need... What's the latest tweet now? Donald Trump on about Stephen Colbert. That story was actually trending this morning. So a few tweets, whatever. But she said, but everything else is great for this country. So it's all in the American people's hands on November 5th. So among the comments that Melania Trump made this morning on Fox and Friends, let's see what else I've got to share with you. There was a hold on. This is interesting. Oh, Newsmax has got a story. Donald Trump broke no law by helping a woman buy groceries. I shared that story with you at length yesterday about Donald Trump giving this woman $100, and she wound up framing it, right? So she says, I'm going to frame this, not going to spend it. So he helps this woman buy groceries, and now there have been all social media. Yeah, social media just goes nuts. You want to see the knee-jerk overreaction, social media is where you go, because it's all over social media. Folks were claiming Trump committed a federal crime, but a former chair of the Federal Election Commission says those claims are absurd. People on social media claiming it was illegal for a presidential candidate to hand out cash to voters. It's a violation of election laws. No. An election law expert, Mike, is it Domino? Professor of law? He said it is illegal to pay someone to vote at all, to refrain from voting, or to vote for a specific candidate. It is not, however, illegal to give money to other people. If it were, candidates would be prohibited from donating to charities or giving money to homeless people or maybe even tipping a waiter or a hairdresser, he says. So the overreaction on social media that Donald Trump is it's just a little bit too much. A little bit too much. Finally, there was one other story I wanted to share this morning. Um, the Wharton Business School saying there's no positive impact on the economy from Kamala's budget plans. Caught my eye. So Kamala Harris, when she was on this program with Oprah recently, said her big spending plans would strengthen the economy. She said they were endorsed by the Wharton School of Business. But they, according to Newsweek, let's take a look at the Newsweek story. There it is. Wharton Business School shoots down Harris' claim that she'll strengthen the economy. So she's out there making claims. Not true. Not true. I'm trying to see what, here we go. Spokesperson, forgive the pop-up. Spokesperson, we did not find a positive impact on the economy from her plan in any future year. The Trump plan does increase GDP for a few years, but lowers by the end of the 10-year budget window, according to a spokesperson. So no, nothing to see here. Not true. Not true, despite the claims that she was out there saying that. So it's pretty incredible. The it's, wrestling sometimes. There's a constant struggle going on in my head as to whether I should say certain things. The and things that happen, whether off the air or via email, and then I think, so I want to react to it, and a part of me is like, no. Although I would put it this way, that what I do on the air every day is very impacted by what the news of the day is. Okay. And it depends on what the headlines are in any given day. Depends on what kind of show I'm going to be doing. And I will tell you very candidly, I just don't know. There are a few days like today where I've got some segments that I've got planned. Like we had I had guests on today talking about Amendment H and what an absolute debacle Amendment H will be should South Dakota voters decide that they want to pass Amendment H. And I'm getting a lot of great response to that, which I appreciate. So I have a few in the interview with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst. Obviously, and set that up in advance. But more days than not, I don't have those segments. I don't have, anything scheduled. I just come in and I take a look at what's going on, and here's the news. Here's what's going on today. I'm trying to let you know what's happening out there right now. This is what's going on today. And it's why the show will vary from day to day, depending on what I see in the news, depending on what's out there, because it's all based on news. It's all driven by news stories. But what that is, some days it's sour. I mean, it is absolutely sour. Just keep that in mind, will you? Because I had someone today and who was taking issue with the segment I did earlier this morning. There's a lot of news involving Kamala Harris. I'm not a fan of Kamala Harris. And if you listen to my show, we're trying to appeal to conservative Republicans generally. Now, I know some people don't consider themselves conservative. I know some listeners who are not Republicans, they're independents. But, I'm a conservative Republican, certainly conservative. And so that's the kind of show that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to let other conservatives know, hey, here's what's going on. And I'm giving a viewpoint on some of these issues that generally a more conservative viewpoint, an honest one, like I was talking about with Nikki Haley, saying that she wants to be able to, she may say good things, she may say bad things, and I appreciate that. And I try to do the same. But with we're moving toward a presidential election here, and Kamala Harris is everywhere. And the news stories about Kamala Harris are everywhere. And it would be, I just can't avoid it. I can't avoid I can't avoid talking about it. Again, I don't have a very high opinion of Kamala Harris, and but it is what it is. Tomorrow I come in, I'll be surprised. Keep in mind that one of the reasons I think that we've got so many of these Kamala Harris stories, first of all, the election, we're not all that far away from the election. So there are a number of stories. The presidential contest, I would much rather, and I agree with you, I heard from a number of people who were very grateful for the conversation on Amendment H, and they want to hear more of that kind of thing. I appreciate that. And I will work on doing that. One of the problems I have is every day, take the 8-hour workday, okay? 8-hour workday. I come in and my first 5 hours are spent on either prepping to go on the air or I'm on the air. That's 5 hours out of my day. The following hour is spent doing this, right? Now I'm looking for additional news stories that I want to share with you during the 4th hour, and I'm interacting with you, and I'm not being critical. I'm just saying this is the reality of my workday. So when I'm done doing this, I have now put in 6 hours of my 8-hour workday. That doesn't leave me, then I've got the administration of the station and the other things, affidavits. So I got an email this morning regarding some affidavits. I got to look into this. So I got all of those other things that I have to do to keep the radio station running, keep it on the air, and keep us in good stead with our networks and all of those things. In addition then to, responding to listener emails, doing all that kind of stuff. I don't have a lot of time to be able to set up interviews. Unless I know somebody. If I've got somebody's email and I can respond, so on, I just don't have a lot of time to set up emails. And today, when I get done doing this, and then I'm going to, I have to go to kello.com and I've got to post it online so folks can find it there. And, all of that, you wind up, I could work 10 hours a day. Easily. I could work 10 hours a day. I just refuse to. I just absolutely refuse. Generally, I work 9 hours a day. I will work until 1. I am here by 4 and I will leave at 1 p.m. And generally I leave at 1 and that's it. So I just don't have a lot of time to schedule interviews and do interviews just based on, again, I'm trying to share the big events that I know are going on, and trying to share the news of the day with you in the morning so that, again, you hear something, you can go out and find more. So if something catches your ear and you're like, it's one of the reasons why as we get into when I do Belf's News Gallery at 6:35 each morning, those are all stories that are trending. And I hit them really quickly. I try to hit as many as I can. I had more stories this morning than I had time to share them. But I do try to move through them fairly quickly. What I'm trying to do is put a bug in your ear, make you aware of it. You heard this. Hey, if you're interested, go find more information on that story. I'm trying to do that every morning. I'm trying to put as much news in front of you as I can. And again, hoping that not, first of all, I understand not everything is going to appeal to you. I get that. Not everything appeals to me. So I know it's not all going to appeal to you. Um, I understand that. But, I've told folks a number of times over the years, so you tune in on a given day and you don't like what you're hearing, I'd be sorry to lose you, but move on. Move on, find something else. The news every day is what it is. It is what it is. My show is not nearly so much entertainment because I'm not an entertaining person. I don't view myself that way unless I'm, on stage with a script, but just being entertaining in and of on my own, I'm not that kind of I'm not that kind of person. And I really have a lot of envy for those that can do that. So what I try to do, we're a news talk station. I'm trying to share news that's going on and put a bug in your ear so that you hear about it. Or if you hear about it later, you go, hey, I heard Greg talking about that. I heard about that. Yeah. So I want to learn more about that. That's really what I do. And one day I may strike out with you. I mean, you may tune in one morning and it's like, it's just not happening. You may go, yeah. The next day, it may be a bullseye. That's just the nature of the industry and what I do. It really is. I'm not making excuses. I'm not saying that I'm not trying as hard as I can to bring things. If there's something that I find in particular that I think, I wonder if this will interest people. I would love to get their point of view on this. Um, Again, generally it's based on some news story. Every now and then I will just throw caution to the wind. You get to be in a mood or something and and we wind up talking about places to eat or, but I can do that once in a while. I can't do that on a daily basis. That's because then you would not be equipped with any of what's going on, um, in the world, our state, our community, and I just can't do that. It's just not the way I operate. So some days things just may not strike you, and you may say, not interested or whatever mood you're in. Got an email from somebody yesterday, and I'm not going to share it, but the and he was frustrated and he didn't like and this and a number of different things. He went through them and I responded to him in the email and I said, I appreciate it. Is a guy, an obvious listener. So I didn't want to be disrespectful to him. At the same time, um, he's wanting he was wanting this to change out just a huge number of things. And you wanted to bring this show back and wanted to get rid of this show and wanted, me to only be on the air like 2 days a week and so on. And I'm like, first of all, I'm a full-time employee. What am I going to what what do I wind up doing the other 3 days of the week? He was venting is what he was doing. And I responded to him and I said, I appreciate it. If you get to a point where you are just whatever morning things are overwhelming or it's just not sitting well with you, I don't like telling you turn the station off or don't listen. I really don't, because everything I'm doing is trying to engage you. Seriously, even when there are no phone calls, it's not because I'm not working at it. It's not because I'm not giving the phone number, or it's not because I got um, stuff that's not in the news or, I certainly am making the effort, but some days it's just gonna hit you. And so he responded back with another email, apologetic, which he need not have been. And what I told him is, "Hey, I understand there are days you just gotta step back. And this is why I have told you I do this. I do it when I leave work. I'm done. I'm done for the day. That's it. The posts that I move on Facebook over the course of the day, I already did those at work. I schedule them. They're going to go out. So I got a post that goes out on Facebook each evening, 6 p.m. It's always something that makes me laugh or catches my attention. And so I move a meme at 6 p.m. But all of that is done before I leave work at 1 o'clock. That's already done. It's ready to go. Once in a while, I may move something, especially if there's something big, so on. But 1 o'clock, I'm done. I just have to unplug, and that's it. I've done my bit for King and Country for the day. So, you know, some days I really don't know, and I mean this very candidly. I do not know what I'm going to be doing on any given day, sometimes until about 5 minutes to six. it's it depends what the news is, and it depends how the phones go. And if whether the conversation's going to be hot or not, and currently I can't buy a phone call. It's really, really difficult trying to get people to call in. Very, very difficult. It's a lot harder than you think it is. I make the questions just as easy as I can and put them out there. But whether or not people are going to be motivated to call, it's anybody's guess. Depends on, I think, it depends on the mood you're in any given day. What mood are you in? One day you may not call, another day, boom, you may be right there. So it's if there are days when the news just isn't sitting well with you, again, I hate telling you, take a break, but take a break. Just take a break. Take a break. Come back later when you're in the mood. I'm always happy to have you along. I'm especially grateful for those of you who watch the fourth hour. If you will do me the favor of hitting the like button, that would be very much appreciated. And I'm going to leave it there for today. I want to wish you a great Thursday. Take care. I'll see you again tomorrow. May God bless.